Hello everybody, this is Dr. Fox here at Precise Chiropractic in Troy, and today I want to invite you guys to our Head to Toe Wellness Show. And this show, the reason for it is because we're here for a particular purpose. Both us as doctors and then you as the patients coming to seek care. You came here because you're looking for results. And there's a direct correlation between the amount of knowledge that you have and the result that you're going to get. And also how fast you're going to respond to your care. And it also means that you're going to end up saving more in the long run. So these are the reasons why we're here today. And we're going to cover 5 different things during this class. We're going to cover the difference between an event and a process. We're going to talk about how symptoms are actually good. We're going to talk about how the body heals itself. And we're going to talk about how misalignments or subluxations are bad. We're going to talk about what's different about NUCA. So first of all, what's the difference between an event and a process? Having a child is an event. Raising a child is a process. I mean, everybody knows. You have a child in the hospital, it happens over a day or two, you take them home, and then the next 18 years is the process of building them up into the adult that you hope that they're going to be. Putting braces on your teeth, that's another example of an event, but it's another 6 month to a 2 year long process to get those teeth exactly the way that you want them. So what about that? Why does this matter? It matters because in today's fast-paced world, we have a tendency to confuse the two. We want things to happen immediately. We want the result in an instant, and that's just not the way nature works. We can try to force things. Our society will have a tendency to do that. It will try to force things to happen in the quickest amount of time possible, and a lot of times we end up having consequences from that. So I want you to take a look at this picture of this young lady here on the screen. I want you to ask yourself if she looks relaxed right now or if she looks like she might be stressed. And again, I want to ask you, if she is stressed, which most people biting pencils staring at computers are, I want you to ask yourself, how well do you think she's digesting her food? I want you to ask yourself how well she's healing anything that's going on inside of her body right now. She's completely focusing all of her attention and energy outside of her body. Nothing's going to be working at its optimum inside of her. So one metaphor for this that we have in chiropractic is called the gas pedal and the brake pedal. And your nerve system split into 2 divisions. One works like a gas pedal that keeps us going, like this girl here on the screen. Another one works like a brake pedal, and that helps us to relax, to calm down, to heal and digest. And when we're stuck on that gas pedal, that's another name for the stress response. And different things happen to our physiology. So what do you think happens to heart rate? Heart rate goes up. Same thing with our blood pressure. Same thing with our blood sugar. Same thing with our cholesterol. All of these are bad things. So what would happen with serotonin, which is our happy feel-good chemical? That one drops. Short-term memory also drops. Immune function drops. And our ability to have deep REM sleep, that also drops during the stress response. So a stuck gas pedal makes things sad, not happy. However, I will say also that this is the body's perfect response to the situation that we place it in. So it's really important that we find a way to shift our body out of that gas pedal mode at times when it's most appropriate for it to be out of it. It's okay to be in the gas pedal mode when it's demanded. It's not okay to be in it stuck long term. It's not okay to have a brick on your gas pedal. But our current healthcare system is actually designed to cater towards our gas pedal dominant lifestyles. It's designed to provide relief care, not to heal. And that may seem a little bit harsh, so I'm going to explain it out a little bit further. When we're talking about relief care, we're talking about someone has a symptom, so they seek out medical care. It's not about trying to heal that person into the most whole version of themselves. It's not about wellness. It's about taking care of what's happening right now in the moment, which is, again, that whole idea of the process versus the event. Medical care is designed to manage events, not to create long-term healthy processes. So we need to start asking different questions. Rather than asking, how can you manage each event, you need to ask, how can I manage the process? And ultimately, part of managing the process is knowing when we need to change things. And symptoms are a really good cue for that. Symptoms are actually your friends. They're painful. Like, for example, this person here on the screen, this fella touching the stove, that's going to hurt. But that also tells him, take your hand off. You're going to burn your hand. So it's actually good for him to have that pain. And likewise, you've got this young lady here, she's covering her ears because the smoke alarm's on. You know, that's not what you want to do. You don't want to ignore the smoke alarm. You want to figure out what's causing the smoke, where's the fire at, so that you can put it out and not ignore it. And for us to know that, we've got to know what health is, because health isn't about not having symptoms. It's not just about feeling good. This guy right here, see him clutching his chest. Maybe you can in the video, maybe you can't. However, here's an old fella, he's clutching his chest, and that's a sign that he's having a heart attack. And what is the first symptom of a heart attack that most people experience? And the sad fact is that the answer is typically the heart attack, even though that heart disease has been a process that's been building for at least a decade, maybe more. The way that we define health, both through Dorland's Medical Dictionary and the World Health Organization, is that it is a state of optimal physical, social, and mental well-being, not merely the absence of disease or infirmities. And so what controls health? What controls the functions of the body? Because when the body's functioning well, that is ultimately what leads to health. And Gray's Anatomy states that the purpose of the brain and nervous system is to control and coordinate the function of every organ, tissue, and cell in the entire body. So we can see here the circulatory system, respiratory system, the musculoskeletal system, the digestive system. All those systems are affected. And the brain and nerve system is the most vital part of our body. It's the first organ that develops in the fetus, and it directs the development of everything that comes after. And the brain has a messenger, the spinal cord and the nerves. These carry messages between the brain and the body tissues. The spinal cord is the major communication cable of the brain, and that spinal cord branches into different spinal nerves that go all throughout our entire body. Every single cell in the body is innervated by a nerve. So all of these muscles, they're controlled by nerves. So if you have a muscle problem, then by default you also have a nerve problem. All the internal organs are controlled by nerves. So if you have an internal organ problem, then by default you also have a nerve problem. And the most vital parts of the body are protected. The brain's protected by the skull. It's a solid bone for protection of the brain. No other part of the body has that exact type of protection. The spinal cord, it's protected by the vertebra, which are movable segments of bone, rather than a long, solid bony tube. Now, if all we needed was to have them protected, then it would just be a brain case coming down into a long, hollow tube with tiny little holes coming out of it. But then what would happen is you wouldn't be able to move. So in order to move, our body makes a compromise. And that compromise is that we're vulnerable at those segments where the motion occurs. And what can happen there is we have a misalignment, or what was called vertebral subluxation complex. So this is the misalignment of the skull and spinal bones, which creates an interference to the signals of the nerves, and then the body no longer receives proper signals from the brain and vice versa. So the muscles, the organs, and the tissues no longer function properly. The body's not at its optimum. It's moving towards sickness and disease rather than health and optimal well-being. The other thing about this is that over 80% of these subluxations or misalignments cause zero pain, no symptoms at all. So something has to happen to cause that first misalignment or subluxation. There has to be a physical trauma that damages the structures that hold the spine together. And here's an interesting fact. Studies have shown that 8 out of 10 infants delivered during a normal birth process, not a traumatic birth process, a normal status quo birth process, have enough trauma put on their neck to cause that first subluxation. So I want to ask you guys, are you one of that 8 out of 10, or do you know someone in that 8 out of 10? And once we have that first misalignment, then we can get subsequent misalignments. And these happen due to mental or emotional tension or stress, physical trauma, or chemical toxins. These are the 3 things that cause those. And there's different aspects of well-being that we've talked about in that definition from Dorland's Medical Dictionary and the World Health Organization. One of those is mental and emotional well-being. And for this, it's your perception that creates your reality. Every single person who walks into a room is going to end up having a completely different experience of that room because they have their own unique perception that they bring to it. So it's really important to have the best perception that we can, to have the best mental attitude and outlook. And part of that is being present time conscious. You can't control anything that's happened in the past, and the only way you can influence the future is by focusing right now in the present. It's also important that we have a lot of attention paid to our physical well-being. We need to exercise at least 30 minutes a day. That comes from the government's recommendations. Our postural alignment matters, getting adjusted matters, and our sleeping arrangement matters. So one of the things that we do have here in the office is we do have these fantastic pillows here. They're called our Chiro Flow pillow. They're a water pillow. We fill them up with water to the amount that's comfortable for you. So anyone can find the comfort spot for themselves with this pillow, and that's going to give you the best night's sleep and support your spine well. Chemical wellness is also very important. We want to be making sure that we're drinking half our body weight in ounces with water. We want to make sure we're consuming healthy fats, not processed fats. So we want fats that are mono or polyunsaturated, like olive oil or flax oil, fats like that. They're going to help to build up the healthy tissues and cells in the body and the brain. And we want to optimize our supplementation. So I'm going to go over a list of some of the supplements that we have here in the office, because we do have a certain number of them. Dr. Hanselman is going to hand me those as I go over them for you. So we have our Ultra Preventive 2-A-Day. So this is a multivitamin. We have one for kids, we have one for adults. They have different formulas, obviously, to meet the needs of those two different populations. So it's very important for anybody over 50 especially, because once you're over that age, you start to digest less of your food. So it's harder for us to absorb minerals and nutrients as we age. And the other part of it is that our food supply, it doesn't grow to the same degree of minerals that it did back in the past. 100 years ago, there wasn't a difference between organic and conventional. Everything was organic, and our soils were much healthier than they are today. Our next one is our osteo support. And osteo means bone. And this formula helps to support the growth of healthy bones. So if someone has osteoporosis or osteopenia, this is going to help them to remineralize. So it's really, really important. It's great for rebuilding bone in women with menopause, low bone density, and some people have substituted this out for their Fosamax. And we've had patients who've come into the clinic and done that and said that their mineralization numbers were actually continuing to improve. The next one is our glucosamine, which is a great supplement for joints, for things like shoulders, knees, elbows. And a lot of those joints, they don't get a really good blood supply, so it's really critical to get the nutrition that's going to support them, and that's what's here in this supplement. We have our Oceans DHA Kids and our Quail Fish Oil for adults. So this is the children's version, and this is the adult version. So maybe a lot of people don't know, but your brain and your nerve cells are actually mostly made of fat. And those fats need to be in the right ratios in order for nerves to conduct properly, for everything to be insulated as well as it needs to be. They're also very important for things like reducing inflammation, just critical for the health of the body overall. And our modern diet has very imbalanced ratios of omega-3 to omega-6 fatty acids. So an omega-3 supplement is really important. The other one that we have is our probiotic. And has anybody ever taken an antibiotic? Antibiotics have a tendency to kill bacteria indiscriminately, including the good ones in our gut. And a significant portion of our immune system is actually in our gut. So when we take those antibiotics, it wipes out everything, and we need to make sure that we repopulate it with the things that are going to help and support us. And that's what we have here in this multi-probiotic formula. The other one that we have is our Formula 303, which is a natural homeopathic muscle relaxer. It's a combination of magnesium, valerian root, and passion flower. So these things they're sedatives. They're actually calming on the body. So it's not an anti-inflammatory, it's actually there to relax things and calm them down. And a lot of people use this for muscle soreness. We have our Agricept. So this is pretty much good for everything. It's a lemon, lime, tangerine, glycerin-based citrus seed extract, and this balances pH in the body. It's great for when you feel a cold coming on, allergies, sinus issues, and immune system compromises. When the body's acidic, That's when we get infections or sick. This alkalizes the body and makes it more basic so that you're able to better fight off infections. We have our B12 lozenges. So our nerve system actually needs B vitamins for it to function properly. So if you're feeling fatigued, a lot of times these B vitamins can really kick things into high gear, and you'll notice a big improvement in energy if you're deficient in B12. And a lot of people are, because it takes a lot of stomach acid. So if you're running that gas pedal, your body's not focusing on making stomach acid, and you could end up not absorbing your B12, even if you do have a diet that's full of animal products. We've got our Cytozyme AD, which is an adrenal support formula. Again, this is for someone who's been really pushing on that gas pedal. The adrenal glands are what powers that gas pedal. So when we've been on it too much, that organ tends to need a lot of support, and the Cytozyme AD will do that. We also have our vitamin D. So we have a couple of different versions of vitamin D3. This one happens to be a vegan spray. We also typically have in the office an emulsion vitamin D3, and these are all in their optimal forms to digest. And vitamin D is a great supplement for anybody who lives in Michigan, because there's just not enough sun power, and most of us don't spend much time out in the sun anyway, for us to get sufficient vitamin D simply from sun exposure. So everybody in Michigan should really be checking their vitamin D levels and on a vitamin D supplement. We also have our Catapex B, and this is a B complex vitamin. B vitamins are very, very important for many different factors that happen in the body, and they're water soluble. So if you're really stressed out, if you're drinking lots of coffee or caffeine, other types of things that are diuretics, we have a tendency to lose B vitamins. So these things can really help to support your overall health and well-being. They're good for physical health, nervous system health, heart health, good for people with circulation issues, nerve issues, numbness and tingling, people with stress, anxiousness, nervousness, or neuropathy. And then we have our Apex, which this here is a cervical orthotic pillow. It's not intended to be slept on for a long period of time. So talk to your doctor here at the office and ask them their recommendations on it for you. I imagine a lot of you probably have already been recommended this. It's there to help restore that natural C-shaped curve into the cervical spine, and the research coming out on it is showing that it's actually really important to do that. Okay, so those are the supplements that we have available. Those are the ones that we feel are the most important here at the office. So let's talk about what happens when somebody gets a subluxation or misalignment in their spine. What this does is it prevents your body from receiving the necessary information to perform the activities of daily living, to do things like fighting diseases or infections, digesting food properly, maintaining a regular heartbeat, pulse, and blood pressure, walking, talking, hearing, and so many more different things. Literally anything that happens in the body could be interfered with by a subluxation that's irritating the nerve and preventing the brain and body from communicating at 100%. Some signs that you or someone that you love has a subluxation are having the head tilted to one side, having uneven shoulders, having uneven hips or a short leg. So if you're watching this in a chair right now, what I'd like you to do is I want you to check into your posture. I want you to ask yourself, am I slumped down? Am I sitting in good proper upright posture? And if that's uncomfortable for you to do, or you have a tendency to always be leaning to one side or noticing these things in the mirror, or your family's noticing them, then odds are that you've got a subluxation or a misalignment, and it could be interfering with your health and causing all kinds of sorts of problems. The other thing that will happen is that you'll have a leg that's shorter than the other leg, and you'll have abnormal nerve function, which we can measure on a surface EMG, and also abnormal radiographic findings in the spine. And so everything we do here at Precise Chiropractic is measured. So what I'd like you guys to do is take a look at your family and friends and let them know if it looks like they may have a problem so we can get them checked. All of these signs are measurable and quantifiable. So here's an example of abnormal versus abnormal posture. So this person here, this is before they had the accident. This here is after having some trauma. And you can see the spine's properly aligned. After the fact, everything's twisted and curved. The shoulder's low, the head's off to the side, the hips are tilted, the posture's off balance to one side. And that's what we see every day here at the office. People come in, we do an exam on them when we find out that their posture is way off and way out of balance. And then we help them restore it back to what you see right there with the normal before trauma. And so this here is another thing that we do in the office. This is a surface EMG. An EMG is an electromyographic study. It's measuring the electrical activity in the muscles of the spine, the paraspinal muscles. And that gives us a proxy measurement of the nerve function for the motor nerves going to those different vertebral levels. So this is what a normal one looks like. You can see that the scan is all white from top to bottom with a little bit of variance as we move through the spine. This is what it looks like typically before someone has their adjustment. This is an abnormal surface EMG that we would do on someone who had that postural distortion and misalignment that we talked about earlier. So all these colors mean something different. Areas that are white are, like we talked about, normal. Greens are areas of mild issues. Blues are moderates, reds are severes, and then black's the most severe. So you can see this person here they need some work. And this is someone after their first phase of care, what we call relief care here in the office. So you can see there's a lot more white on this scan than the person who had the abnormal at the beginning before they got their first adjustment. And now there's a whole lot more whites, greens, blues, a lot less reds, and no blacks at all. So this shows that person is moving towards optimum at this stage in their care. And again, that's reiterating that this is a process, not an event. This person is much better off than they were before, but there's still room for improvement, and that's how that process will play out over time for them. And this here shows the radiographic findings. So this is a near normal cervical x-ray. You can see it has that nice forward C-shaped curve. The disc spaces are thick and even, and there's clean, clear vertebral bodies. And in this person, you can see how that C-shaped curve is starting to shift upwards like that. And we can see that the disc spaces there are starting to narrow down. And in this case here, in the phase 1 of the degeneration, the vertebral body borders are still clean and clear. And at this stage, this is what's really fascinating, is that 80% of these people, 0 pain, no symptoms. And we can see here, 0 to 20 years, that's not the age of the person, that's how long that degenerative process has been occurring for. In phase 2, this is when the process has been happening for 20 to 40 years. There's further loss of the forward curvature. Disc spaces are starting to show really significant changes. And you can see right there where that red arrow is pointing, you're actually starting to get buildup of calcium in front of the vertebral borders on the disc. So this is the body really starting to try to lock things down. And then this is phase 3 of degeneration. There's further loss of forward curvature, severe degeneration of the disc, and the vertebral bodies are showing calcium spurs and actual changes to the shapes of the body, which you can see here in this area and here in that area there. So this is really severe. And typically, when someone goes through a course of care for a long enough period of time, they can usually reverse a phase. So a phase 3 can oftentimes go to a 2 can oftentimes go to a 1 can oftentimes go to near normal. So I want to talk about some common misconceptions about health. Bones, a lot of people think that bones pop in and out, and they don't. They misalign. And a lot of people think that not having any pain means they don't have a problem. However, 80% of misalignments have no symptoms, and plaque in your arteries has no symptoms until something finally occurs in a big moment. And a lot of times people think chiropractors are back doctors. The truth is that chiropractors are doctors of the nerve system. The nerve system controls and coordinates everything in the body, and chiropractors free up interference on the nerve system so that the body can work at its best and you can heal at your optimum levels. And other people oftentimes will say that chiropractors claim they can cure everything. The truth is that we don't claim we can cure anything. All we do is we work to make the spine function as best as it possibly can. And because that spine is such a vital portion of what's necessary for our bodies to heal, people with a lot of different conditions often find that they respond well to chiropractic care. And again, I would really want to reiterate, over 80% of subluxations cause no pain, so you may not even know that you have them. So what's different about NUCA care? NUCA care is a system. It's ultra specific. There are 10,000 ways to adjust someone on one side of the body, or 10,000 ways total, 5,000 on one side of the body and 5,000 on the other. And that's based upon what we see on the x-ray and different headpiece positionings based on the types of misalignments that someone has. There's no forcing of the joints to move, so there's no twisting, popping, or cracking involved. Each correction is based on measurement from specific x-rays, and no two are identical. We achieve body or postural balance by restoring the proper position of the head relative to the neck, which allows all spinal joints to function more normally, and that provokes better nerve and blood flow, which means healing. So in an ideal world, what would healthcare look like? It would look like getting a spinal checkup regardless of systems, because again, that nerve system controls and coordinates everything. It would mean regular but less frequent adjusting that may be needed over time to achieve optimum function. Just like you would go to the dentist regularly to get teeth cleanings, it's a good idea to go to the chiropractor to get your spine checked. And the frequency is going to depend upon your misalignment severity and your lifestyle. Everybody needs a different frequency based upon the stresses, those physical, chemical, and emotional stressors that are a part of their lives. And it would also look like lifestyle management for a lifetime of health, because health is a process and you can't manage it with a single event, which is why it's a necessity that we have lifestyle management, which to me means getting checked to make sure that your spine is free of those misalignments, because again, 80% of them go completely unnoticed, but they're still causing damage over time. So I want to thank you for watching this class and allowing us to be a part of your healthcare team. And please see this time not as an event, but as the beginning of a process that's going to assist you in the greatest expression of your inborn potential for health and for life. Again, this is Dr. Peter Fox here at Precise Chiropractic in Troy. I hope you enjoyed the class.